Richard, I gotta let you say the name of your winery. The most unusual name of a winery ever.
Oh, why thank you. Well, we call it an approach to relaxation. It's really important to both myself and my wife and co-founder, co-winemaker Carla you got to do what you love. And to create an approach to stress winery would just be stupid.
That wouldn't be real bright.
So no, that's not to say there aren't stressful moments. Of course there are, in whatever you do, even if you love it. But we thought, why not call it an approach to relaxation? Within that, the wines also have some cheeky names.
Like?
Well, so we have a friend, very, very close friend, who she and her family make wine in the Rhone Valley in Hermitage. They also like tequila as much as I do, and so we've spent many evenings over the past number of years sitting on the top of the hill of Hermitage, drinking tequila, thinking of funny wine names. And so she came up with, we at an approach to relaxation, we only make one red and one white. And this particular friend named both of the wines. So the red is called Sucette, and the white is called Nichon. And at the time, we thought that Sucette was, quote unquote, old French for to suckle, like a verb, if you will. It turns out we go to our first trade tasting, where we're next to Guillaume from Genou Boulanger in Burgundy, and he's like, "Do you guys know what you named your wine?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course. Guillaume means Sucette, it's to suckle." And he's like, "Well, there's a dirtier meaning too." I'm like, "Oh wow." Well, here we are. Wine's bottled, labeled, and thus it lives. It's so important to not do what you think you're supposed to do because of a genre or a business or the wine community is amazing. There's also plenty of really staid and boring shit in there. And am I allowed to say shit?
Absolutely. You did twice, so that's
all right,
okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So it's why be like anybody else? Do what makes you happy. No, I'm not. In fact, we're only allowed 90 days a year in the country. It's part of being a felon. No, I'm just kidding about the felon part. No.
Okay.
No, the felon
Gotta
part.
go now.
Yeah, exactly. Run.
Yeah.
We ended up there because, I'll take a step back. There's lots of ways to approach the winemaking question. And you can go to school, you can go to Davis, learn how to do it. It turns out yeast like to consume sugar, makes alcohol, carbon dioxide. Or, as we've done, is you approach it from the sommelier side. You serve a lot of wine, you drink a lot of wine, you figure out what tugs at the strings of your heart, then you figure out how did that thing come to be, right? So you unknit the sweater, like how did that thing become what it is? And that's what we did, and it turned out what we loved was Grenache grown in sand. And so when you grow Grenache in sand, you don't get much color. But listen, and everybody listening, here's a question for you. Do you taste color or do you smell color? The answer is no, you don't. So why the hell do we even care about it? Instead, so you don't get much color, but you do get all the high-toned, beautiful aromatics, the things that have led us to feel as though Grenache is the warm climate analogy of Pinot Noir. And that's something interesting. So we go on this search for sand-grown Grenache, and at this point I'm living in Colorado, and it takes me around the world. And this is almost 20 years ago, early 2000s. So we look in Spain, and we look in Sardinia, and we look in the south of France, where the first wine came from Chateau Reyes, now obviously very well-known, extraordinarily expensive Chateauneuf du Pape. But it turns out there's not a whole lot of those sorts of circumstances right around Reyes. And so we keep looking. We go to California, we don't find what we're looking for. We go to Australia, and in this tiny little windswept corner of the Barossa Valley, it's a tiny little percentage of the whole, is a place called Vinevale. And two things grow well there, carrots and Grenache. And they don't grow carrots there anymore, it's far too valuable land, but it's sand. And so you're basically at the foot of the Barossa Ranges and the Eden Valley. And as those things have eroded, you end up with an alluvial fan, of which is entirely this very fine white beach sand. It's eroded quartzite and granite, so slightly acidic soil. It's super interesting. And that's where our Grenache grows. And so we own a small vineyard there. It's about 12 and a half acres of indeterminate age. It's planted at some point in the mid to maybe later 1800s.
So you have no idea?
We have no idea, which is funny. The Australians, they like rules. I don't know, some people just like rules, whatever. And so, we started to use this terminology around it. And of course, they don't codify the appellations, because why would we do that? But they do beyond the Barossa Valley. Let's talk about some subregions. That'd be helpful. But they do codify like vine age designations. And look, if you've been there forever and ever and ever, and you've passed the deed down, well, you've got something. If you're us, who stumble on this lost vineyard that's 10 by 10 foot planting, so pre-mechanization in the vineyard, it was on, long time ago, a 20-inch wire trellis, 20 inches off the ground, single wire trellis that has fallen over. And you talk to people about when were those used. Well, that was somewhere between, plus or minus 1860. We found farm equipment in the vineyard that had a 25-foot tall prickly pear growing up through it that was stamped, made in Canada in 1880. So all these signs point to this very, very old thing. And then we make our wine at a friend's winery. They're 6th generation Barossans. And when you go see Pop, who's 96 today, he says that he picked grapes in that vineyard when he was a kid. And when he was a kid, it was old then.
Oh, wow.
And so it's all circumstantial evidence. And look, we don't care who's older or whatever. The point is that they're just ancient. And so, long ago, they knocked that trellis over, at one point probably abandoned, and they all became their own little bonsai, and every vine is completely unique. We feel, having been in love with sand-grown Grenache for the last 20 years, including a time when people didn't even care about it, we couldn't feel more fortunate to be the custodians of this very special little garden at this point.